Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Maddie and welcome to my world. For today's video, I wanted to do another sit down talk video. Yes, I'm sorry, I know I made one not that long ago, but I honestly really wanted to kind of just sit down and talk to you guys because I've had a lot of thoughts going on and I really wanted to talk about one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do in my life, which is stopping working. And I wanted to kind of talk about how it affects me, how I feel about it, what I think, and also about my mental health. And yeah, but if you guys don't know who I am going to give a small introduction just because if this is on your recommended, maybe like, who is this girl? Like, what does she struggle with? And if you have any other questions, obviously at the end of the video, or maybe even in this second, feel free to comment. But so, hi, my name is Maddie. I'm 20 years old. I'm going to be 21 in June of 2025. I was born in 2004. And I've struggled with my mental health for quite some time. I would say, like, on record, the time I noticed was in 6th grade. But looking back, and obviously now that I know more about mental health, I definitely think I started struggling way before 6th grade. But throughout time, going to different therapists and being in a mental hospital and, you know, just different things that I've gone through, I have been diagnosed with MDD, BPD, general anxiety, and an ED. But the ED is not important in this scenario of what we're talking about, so I will not be really going any further with that. And yeah, also I do want to put a little disclaimer that this is just how I feel. This is my personal experience. And you have the right to your own opinion, but at the end of the day, I know what's best for me. And that's another thing that we're going to be talking about later in the video. But without further ado, let's get into it. So in my little introduction, I mentioned that I'm going to be 21 this year. In New York State, which is where I live, you are allowed to start working at 14 years old. And I did. I did not always struggle with working, and I didn't always struggle how I struggle now. Obviously, I said that I had BPD. BPD is developed over time, and it's through experiences and trauma. And so I wasn't always, I didn't always struggle with what I struggle now. And so I started working as soon as I can. I have had multiple different jobs with food, with retail, even some with hair. I, was so excited when I first got the news that I can work. When I turned 14, I was so excited. Like, I got a job right away. I think my dad's friend, like, they were talking and my dad was like, hey, like, I know you want a job. Do you want, like, whatever. I got a job, and when I first started working, like, I feel like I didn't keep my jobs long, but it wasn't because, like, I couldn't work. There were certain situations that happened at work, or obviously, like, it was just for the summer. And then when I would go back to, like, school, I wouldn't work. Like, at my first job, the reason I quit, and I didn't work there that long, even though it was only a summer job, I didn't work the whole summer, and I was getting bullied, and, like, I'm not going to be, like, in a negative situation like that, especially because I already have struggled with bullying a lot, and, why stay in a super toxic environment, right? But yeah, I didn't struggle with working, I would say, until about 2021 to 2022. And during that time, I was in cosmetology school. Cosmetology school, for me personally, was one of the worst experiences of my life. I can say, like, everything happens for a reason. That's my belief. So although it is one of the worst things that happen, like, honestly, sometimes I question why things occur the way that they do, but I would not go back in time and change it. But it was one of the most burnout times of my life. I was so burnt out to the point where it definitely started to really affect me, really affect my mental health. And I feel like sometimes when I really do look back, I do wonder if I never went to cosmetology school, if a lot of things would be different, but obviously there is no point of sitting there and wondering what ifs about the past, because the past is the past and the only thing that is the present. And obviously the future is to come, but what is worrying and thinking gonna do? So when I was in cosmetology school, I was very burnt out. I was going to cosmetology school from like 9 a.m., 8:50 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then sometimes I would have to stay until 6 p.m. Because if you guys have never been to cosmetology school, just a little insight. It's based on hours. Each state, you need a different amount of hours. For New York, I don't know if it's changed, but at the time I needed 1,000 hours. And then I can get my cosmetology license after I took my state boards and whatnot. So if I ever missed school, for whatever reason, it was held against me. And during that time, I was having a lot of stomach issues, so I would go to doctor's appointments. There were some times where like I just could not physically bring myself to go to school. And obviously that was held against me because it's all based on hours. And then I had to stay longer. And because of how the school was and the fact that like if I missed a day, like it truly was negatively impacting me, I think that had a huge role on my burnout. I look at videos during that time or like different things and I'm just like, wow, I don't even know, like I physically now at least am so incapable of that, and I don't think I was capable of it then. I feel like I really did reach my limit, but I just kept over pushing myself because I truly had no choice, and that's what ended up really negatively affecting me. But obviously we all learn from lessons. And so yeah, I was in cosmetology school doing that, plus working. And I worked at Walmart at the time, and I didn't work every day, but the days that I would work typically were late, except on the weekends. I would work like 1 to 8 on the weekends? 1 p.m. to 8 maybe? It's kind of blurry, I don't really remember. Because also this was such a bad time that sometimes my brain blocks out things from cosmetology school. I spent a lot of time of cosmetology school in a very, very bad state of mind. But yeah, when I worked late though, I would work 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. or 9 p.m. And so also I would have to drive an hour to school and back because my mom lived an hour away from my school. And so I would drive there and back, plus go to work. And cosmetology school was Monday through Friday. Work was not, thankfully, but sometimes I'd work Saturday. And so I just was very busy all the time, too much. But I had to do that from November to July. I ended up quitting my job at Walmart in June. And I will say, thankfully, in February, I met my current boyfriend, and he lived closer to my school. He lived 30 minutes. So I did eventually start staying here sometimes, and thankfully would only have a 30-minute commute instead of an hour. But it was still a lot. It was taking a lot of me. It was really not it. It was really tiring, and so it really became unbearable. I quit work. And, you know, I was always told my whole life, like, you have to work for everything. You can't sit there and expect it to be handed to you. And I do agree with that. However, I knew that I didn't think that pushing myself even harder than I already was the best idea. So that is why I left Walmart in the first place. I left Walmart in June, and then I graduated cosmetology school in July. After I graduated cosmetology school, though, I thought that if I got another job and whatnot, even though my mental health was really bad, if I got another job, it would be fine and I would be fine and I wouldn't feel so bad and so like physically in like turmoil because I wasn't in school anymore. But I was very wrong. And so I tried working multiple times, and I would end up feeling so burnt out and just would need to quit, and just was very, very miserable. I was just very, very miserable, and I just felt like I couldn't do anything else. So I just kept forcing myself to work and kept forcing my burnout to get worse. And when I tell you guys this, like, in cosmetology school, it literally felt like, I don't know if you've ever seen those like experiments that sometimes people do in school, but this is what I feel like genuinely occurred. I used to not struggle with working, but I got burnout and I just kept adding weight, and then it was like snap, and my brain literally changed. Like, what I was gonna say is before is, I don't know if you've ever seen like those like bridges made out of like sticks that people do sometimes in like tech class, and you like stack books on top, or you have like two barrels and you like see how much weight it can like hold until it breaks. I did that, then my bridge broke and I kept going, and I think that that really is where I took a wrong turn. And so time kept going on. I kept having different jobs. I've had a lot of different jobs, and I just would work and quit and work and quit, and like I just couldn't understand like why I was so physically incapable, but like it just physically pained me to go to work. And it wasn't just the feeling of, oh, I don't want to work, like that, you know, everyone feels. Like, it was way beyond that. And so yeah, I would have breaks of time where like I wouldn't work for a little bit, but like obviously, you know, I had a lot of people telling me that you need to do this, you need to do that, like you can't not work, like you're being lazy. And it's easier said than done to not listen to people who say that when it is like everybody around you. So for the most part, I never really care what people say. If they think that I'm weird, or think that my hair is weird, or think that my piercings are ugly, or I don't care in that sense. But like when all of your support system, or the people that are supposed to be your support system, are telling you how like bad you're doing, or that like you're not working and you're being lazy, it can get really overwhelming to the point where you're just like, damn, they're right. So I kept working. And then in the beginning of 2023, I got a job at Claire's. Before then I had a lot of on and off jobs, and I would quit and literally tell the people at, like, I would tell my bosses at these jobs, like, hey, the reason I'm quitting is just because of my mental health. It's so bad. I just don't feel good. And also, I have struggled for a long time with suicidal ideation as well as self-harm. And those two things were very, very bad during these times because I was overdoing it, and I, you know, like even working the bare minimum. And also, when I say that I've been working, like when work started to get bad and like unbearable, I wasn't working 40 plus hours a week. I was working maybe 10 to 20, but I would say lower than 20 typically. And it was still too much. A 4-hour shift eventually became too much for me. So in 2023, like I was saying though, I got a job at Claire's, which was in the mall near me. And I didn't really know how to feel, but all I knew was that I had to work. I needed money. I had no choice. And if I didn't work, like I would have no money and not be able to do anything, because obviously the world revolves around money, and I just can't live without money. I don't have my own apartment, thankfully, or anything like that. And, you know, whatnot, but I still have to buy food for myself, and I still have to put gas in my car, and I need a job. So I got a job at Claire's, and Walmart and Claire's were the two longest jobs I've ever worked in my whole entire life. Claire's, I worked there for, I believe, 6 months, and I think I worked at Walmart for 9 months. Because all the jobs like before Walmart were kind of, like I said, like summer jobs, or like here and there, like whatever. I was in like middle school and whatnot. So I worked at Claire's, and the reason I was able to stay there so long, honestly, was I really truly believe because of my boss at Claire's. I don't think she's gonna watch this video, but if you do, I loved my boss at Claire's, and I think that the only reason I was able to work is because she was so understanding, and because instead of treating me like an employee that she doesn't care about, she actually cared, and she actually like listened to what I had to say. I told her that I struggled with my mental health. She literally would suggest me taking days off. Like, she'd be like, hey, is your birthday coming up? Hey, is your boyfriend's birthday coming up? Like, schedule those days off in advance. And like, I just feel like having someone like that was kind of like, it was definitely really helpful, because I also was in an online program for 6 months, and I was doing a 9-hour a week, 3-hour calls. So 3 times a week I was doing 3-hour calls. It was like an outpatient place. And over that course is when I got diagnosed with BPD, and then a lot of things started clicking. So like, for the most part, Claire's, I was able to work, but then yet again, because I still was so burnt out, it got to a point toward the end where I really was like, this is still not doable. Like, it just was getting harder. The longer that I worked was getting harder, and I realized like, okay, this isn't gonna work. And so I told my boss, hey, I'm sorry, I'm just not doing well, and I just need to quit. So I quit working, and then eventually, obviously, I tried jobs again, because like, I didn't have any money. Like, I made a good amount at Claire's, and I like had some money saved, so I used that money. But then once I was out, I kind of went into the panic mode again of like, okay, like, I don't have any money, and I need money, I need food, so let me get another job. And I tried different jobs, and each kind of just started ending the same, where it would be less and less that I can work. At Claire's, I would say Claire's is the most like almost full-time job that I ever worked. The most hours I ever worked there were 30 in a week. But by the end of that, I was like dying. Like, it was really bad. But yeah, I kept trying different jobs. And then in October of 2023, I was like, I am literally gonna die. So I told my mom, like, I don't know what to do. Like, I just can't do this. I was working at Burger King at the time, and they also kept taking advantage of me. And I would tell them, because at the time I also was like, okay, maybe I need to go back to school. So I tried to go to college, and like, I told Burger King, I am in college. I cannot work past 10 p.m. But they would like send people home that were supposed to stay late, so that I had to. So then sometimes I were working to 12 to 1 a.m. And like, sometimes they would ask me to stay late, and like, on some days I could, so I would say yes, but then they would take advantage of that and like constantly do it. And I just was really like, I can't do this. And so I ended up admitting myself into a mental hospital in Florida. And I flew down there, and I was there for a little bit, but it was also more of a rehab. And I didn't really know that, because the way they like spoke about it, it was like really both. But like, after being there, and then after going eventually to another mental hospital later on in the story, I kind of realized like, no, that was like a rehab, not really a mental hospital. So I went there, and then I came home, and I didn't work for a little bit. I was like, okay, like, I'm just gonna try and focus on me. Like, maybe I'll feel better. Maybe, I was trying to be optimistic. I was trying to just be like, it's gonna be fine. Like, I needed to break away. And also, something that I would like to mention, every time that I stopped working, although yes, I was still struggling with my mental health, like, BPD ain't just gonna snap away, and like, depression, can be affected by different things, but like, clearly I was still struggling when I wasn't working, but it just was way more livable. It was just more doable to like get things done, or to do things, because when I would work, like, I'd have to work, and then it was literally like I could not do anything else. I couldn't brush my teeth, I couldn't shower, I couldn't clean. And when I didn't work, it was still hard to do those things, but not as hard. It was easier. But anyway, I didn't work. And then in November, I got a job and was like, oh, I still can't do this. I'm going to go back to the mental hospital because I am really unwell and I might die. So I admitted myself into another mental hospital, but in New York. And that was like a real mental hospital, where you had to ask like to go to the bathroom, and you couldn't have shoelaces and you couldn't have anything, including your toothpaste. And that was an experience. So I was there for, I think, 10 days. And then they like were like, okay, like we think you're good to go. And I left. And I didn't get a job for a little bit. Because, you know, I just kind of wanted to like readjust to normal life. Like I feel like if you've ever been to a mental hospital, like, and then you get out, it's like, oh my God, like I can touch grass, I can look out a window, like, oh my, like it's a really weird experience. Like I don't know how to explain it, but so I didn't get a job until the end of February of 2024. And I got a job at Sally Beauty. I, you know, tried selling jobs in the past. It didn't work for me, and cosmetology didn't work for me. So, you know, I was like, well, I mean, I like doing my own hair. So if I sell like products like hair dye, like I feel like it won't be that bad. Like I can be myself there at least. And you know, like, so, I started working, and, very quickly I realized, okay, it's still going to be a problem. This is not durable. And so at first I was working, I'm pretty sure like sometimes I would work like 8-hour days. And I was like, you know what, let me try and be as honest as possible with my boss. And I'm just going to tell him like, hey, I really struggle with mental health. And unfortunately, like, I just don't think that I can work these long hour shifts. I want to work shorter hour shifts if that's possible. Like, I don't really want to quit. You know, I haven't worked in a little bit. I, you know, just came back from whatever. Like, it's just a lot. Thankfully, he was understanding, and he said, yeah, like, we can switch your shifts down to like 4 hours, but just know that like I can't go lower than that. Like 4 hours is the least amount you can work in a day. So I said, okay, and I tried that, but it still really felt the same. It still wasn't really helping. And like every time that I would go to work, like I would, like, I never went into any of these jobs thinking like, oh, it's going to be bad. Like I went into these jobs thinking like, okay, this is a new job. I've never done this before. Like it's going to be great. I tried to really have like that positive mindset, but like I started realizing like it taking tolls on me, and then obviously I wouldn't feel the best and would start feeling or I would start having like suicidal ideation, or I'd get back into the self-harm. So like, you know, I kind of realized quickly like, okay, this is not working for me. The last job that I worked, I genuinely feel like that was one of the worst feelings that it ever was. I would work, and I only worked 3 days, and there were 4-hour shifts, like eventually. And most of these jobs, by the way, that I've talked about, like within like after cosmetology school, like I typically would work 3 to 4 days only. And like Claire's was 4 to 8 hour shifts, but like it depended, but most of the time it wasn't like super long. Never over 8 hours, besides Burger King, because as I said, but so I was working 3 days a week, 4-hour shifts. Then I switched and I was doing 2 days, 4-hour shifts. I would come home from work. I would be thankful that I was home, but I would cry, have panic attacks. I would be having like so much anxiety and just genuinely felt so burnt out and defeated, and I physically didn't know what to do. I would sit there and like beg my boyfriend like for an answer. I really truly did not know what to do. And I was like, well, if I can't work, like I don't have money and I don't know what to do, because clearly this is not working. Like I feel like I am going to die if I keep doing this. Like I don't know what to do. And multiple times throughout working, like there would be points where I physically would not be able to do anything, because it genuinely felt like if I did something, even if I worked in 2 days, I had to do nothing for that period of time, because if I did anything, I would not have the energy to work that next day, and I would have to call out. And that wasn't just a thought, like that's what would happen. So then with this job, I would work on Monday, and then I'd work on Wednesday. So I would work Monday, I would come home, be exhausted, like I'd feel so depressed, like I would cry, I would, whatever. Then on Tuesday, I could not get out of bed. I could not do anything. And if I did do something on Wednesday, I would literally like get dizzy at work. Like I genuinely was like, I can't do this. Like I don't have the energy. So like it kind of just got to a point where I really was like, when I am home, I'm doing nothing. I'm laying in bed all day. I'm sleeping. And when I go to work, I work. And clearly that's not livable. Clearly, like, that is not good for mental health or just in general. Like, I shouldn't come home and be having to sleep for hours or, like, not really do anything for days so that I can work my next shift, you know? So it got to a point where I was, every day, I was so miserable. It was like, this was also in the span of 2 weeks, but it was a lot. Actually, I started on the 28th. It might have been 2 weeks because I started on February 28th at this job and I quit the 15th of March. So I don't really know in the top of my head, but just, yeah, in a couple weeks. And so I was like sitting there crying to my boyfriend. I was like, I just don't know what to do. And like, I kind of said, like, in my head, I was like, I really want to quit, but I can't quit. I don't know what to do. Like, my heart and brain are telling me two different things, but I don't know which one to choose, and I really wish someone could tell me. And I opened my phone. This is like literally a true story. I opened my phone, I went on TikTok, and a tarot reading popped up. I'm not very, very religious. I feel like I do believe in some spiritual things, and, I've always liked tarot. And I don't know why, I really felt called to listen to this tarot reading. And the girl in the video said, like, it seems that you're stuck right now between your heart and your brain. And if you choose your brain, you are going to continue going down a path of misery, and you are not going to be happy. But if you choose your heart, you will go on a healing journey. You will heal. You will be happier. I saw that as a sign from whatever, universe, whatever, that I really did need to quit my job, and that how I was living was not doable. Working made me want to die. I physically couldn't handle it. I mentally couldn't handle it, and I couldn't function. And I've gotten into such bad habits with self-harm and not taking care of myself, and that's what I need to do. So on March 15th of 2024, I quit. I talked to my boyfriend about it, obviously, and I talked to my mom about it, and I was like, listen, I can't do this anymore. Like, especially to my mom, like, because my boyfriend kind of saw things firsthand. Well, like, I don't live with my mom anymore, even though I'm very close to her, and so, she kind of wasn't seeing things firsthand. She was just, hearing, but not seeing, and, she didn't really understand at first, but, like, now, as, the years go on, she's definitely, like, her eyes have opened more, and she's been more understanding. She wasn't, like, rude, but I'm just saying, like, she was kind of like, quit if you need to, and, like, like, whatever. But she just didn't understand, like, what about work was hard, or, like, whatever. And I don't even truly know what's hard about work. But I quit, and that was the hardest thing that I ever had to do. I had to be as selfish as possible and quit for my own self, even though everyone was telling me not to, and even though, financially isn't the best option. So I quit. Ooh, I felt so good. The goodness that I felt, I couldn't even explain to you. This pressure and, like, just icky feeling, like, that was relieved that day was so good. We were actually in the middle of redoing this room, because I live with my boyfriend and his parents, and they were redoing the room for us because, like, I was here for a while, and they were like, we want you guys to have a bigger room. And I just was so happy that day. And I decided that I am not going to work. I'm going to work on me. I'm going to heal as much as possible, and it's all going to work out. So I'm not going to stress about it, and that I'm going to work on things that I've always wanted to work on. I'm going to focus on things that I feel like need to be focused on, and that's it. Obviously, that's very easy to say. And so within this last year, I have had a lot of people say a lot of things. And like I'm pretty sure I said earlier, when the people that are supposed to be your support say negative things, but everyone is saying the same negative thing, it can get really hard not to listen and to like keep straight on the path that you want to go down. So a lot of people kept telling me that if I didn't get a job and stop being lazy, that my boyfriend of 3 years was going to leave me, and he was going to resent me and hate me in the future because I made him do all the work, and that I don't do anything, and that I'm not working toward anything. I'm not providing for anything. And I was getting that message a lot from people. And so I really started to be like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to work again. And so I started applying for jobs, and like I was, kind of like really spiraling about it, and spiraling about money. And like sometimes people would call me back, and I just couldn't even pick up the phone for a job interview because I knew, like, my intuition was telling me, girl, no. We're not doing that again right now. You have other things to focus on. You need to focus on those. Like, just tune these people out. But it was really hard for me because, like, obviously, I think, like, another issue that I am struggling with currently is, like, comparison. I'm going to be 21 and I don't live in my own place. Everything's so expensive, so it just gets stressful and hard, especially when, like, my boyfriend has to pay for everything. And, I kind of started to believe them and believe, you know what? I feel bad for him too. And maybe I should just let him, find something better, find someone that can function, find someone that's normal, because I can't work and it's physically impossible for me to. So I want to leave him so that he could get something better. And I just was feeling bad about it. And, then I talked to him and he was like, babe, like, this is how I feel. Like, stop listening to what other people say. Like, they're not me and you. They're not in this relationship. So if I say something to you, that is what the truth is. And so I was like, you're right. So here we are now. I haven't worked in a year, and honestly, the goodness that I feel from not working is amazing. And I really am glad that I decided to put my foot down, even though I didn't for a couple years and kept pushing myself. And I really am glad that I decided to stop and, like, actually work on me and my mental health, because I feel like if I didn't, I truly wouldn't be here. And I know that, like, that's a crazy thing to say, but, like, I am being so genuine when I say that. And, obviously things take time. I was so burnt out for a long time and I kept pushing myself. So clearly, I'm not 100%. Also, as someone who deals with depression and BPD, etc., you don't just magically wake up and you're healed from that. So yes, I still have struggles and have a lot of ups and downs, but I genuinely feel like so much better than I did. And sometimes I'll even, like, find, like, past videos of me where, like, I'm crying and talking, like, maybe I was sending it to my mom or something, or my boyfriend or whoever, and, like, I just look at that sometimes and I'm like, yeah, I made the right decision. Because, yeah, like I already just said, like, I still have struggles, I still have moments like that, but I genuinely feel like my self-harm, my suicidal ideation, like, all of that stuff, yeah, like, maybe it's here and there, like, self-harm, a lot of people, this is not a video about self-harm, but a lot of people don't realize self-harm is like an addiction. It is an addiction. And so because I was so used to going to that, Obviously I have some times where, you know, I do go back to that, but like for the most part, I truly do feel like stopping working like really was the right decision for me. And, you know, one thing that I've always had a lot of passion for was making videos. So I really have been taking this time to really focus on doing things that genuinely I like. Unfortunately, because I was so burnt out, I really have gotten into a lot of bad routines and habits, like not showering, not brushing my teeth. It is very hard for me to clean, as you can see, like I'm being real right now. And also because I don't live in my own space, sometimes like it is hard, or like certain obstacles get in the way, and then I kind of feel like, oh, okay. But sorry, I've been sitting here for 30 minutes yapping away. But obviously I really am just trying right now to focus on me, to work on me, and to really not focus on not being in the right place in my life right now, because technically there is no right place, people say. But I think like what just gets to me is I just have specific goals, and I feel like I have kind of been living on a timeline in my head, like, oh, by this age I'm going to do this, and so when those ages come and I still haven't done certain things, I think like I get really disappointed and upset. Which, you know, obviously I'm working on that. But yeah, like I said, I'm right now in my life, I'm trying to focus on YouTube. I think it really makes me happy, and I am so thankful for every one of you. And if you've watched this video to the end, thank you so freaking much. Even if you're not subscribed and you don't subscribe, like genuinely thank you for listening and hearing me out, because like I have wanted to be a YouTuber when I was younger. Like I just was like, oh my god, like I love making content. I used to like sit and make like little movies with my cousin and my sister, and like I always loved it. It always brought me joy, and that is one thing that always like brought me joy throughout my whole life. And so like, although to maybe some people, like me sitting here and making videos is doing nothing, to me I feel like it really is doing something, because I am trying to get back in touch with myself and things that I enjoy, and YouTube is just something that I enjoy. And even if I'm never successful on YouTube, it genuinely, like, I love making videos. And so that's what I've been doing in my meantime while not working. I've been focusing on, you know, making my YouTube videos, trying to make them better quality, and trying to like, you know, experiment with like editing and whatnot. And I've been trying to just be present as much as possible with my boyfriend, you know, making sure our relationship's good, you know, and making sure that I'm okay. So yeah, I'm sorry that this video is long, but I really wanted to talk about my experience, me not working, and what it's been like. This is not an easy thing to do, and if you relate to this or, you know, anything like that, I am so very sorry. I really struggle with executive dysfunction and stuff, and I will say before I do end this video, one last thing that I am trying to work on with my therapist is to get tested and to possibly see if I do have any type of like neurodivergence type things, or maybe ADHD, because maybe like, you know, something like that's affecting me as well. But if you struggle with any of these things, I just want to say that I'm so sorry, and I hear you and I understand, because it's not easy. It truly isn't. And, you know, it does get frustrating when people don't understand or when people put you down, but yet they haven't even taken the time to think or put themselves in your shoes. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. And my goal right now, honestly, and even when I stop working, isn't, okay, I'm going to do this so I can go back to work. My goal is I'm going to do this so I can live a better life, so I can be happier, and I can live. So yeah, with that being said, that's the end of today's video. I'm sorry it was so long. I really, if you took the time to listen to me, I'm really, really thankful. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.